Advertising journalism तो लड़कियां पढ़ने जाती हैं. It's always a fun profession to be in. Very important skill that I have learned is what I call listen to learn and learn to listen. I think also it's very important never to burn your bridges. The third thing I think which is absolutely key in today's world is try and develop another skill. Ultimately, advertising, communications, digital media, you're trying to influence people's behavior. Never give up on your dreams.
So myself, Gaurav Garg, and we welcome all our viewers to our show Amazing Mentor. Today with us is Mr. Kunal Sinha. He is a consumer strategy and foresight expert based in Mumbai. He was Executive Director Advisory at Kantar. Previously, he ran an independent consulting practice based in Shanghai and was Chairman Asia Pacific at the Futures Company. He spent over 25 years in Ogilvy, JWT and McCann Erickson doing strategic planning, research and consulting across 4 continents. Kunal is a 12-time winner of WPP Ethicus Award for Original Thinking in Marketing Services, including 3 Grand Prix. He was listed in Millennium edition of Who is Who in the World. It's a pleasure to welcome Mr. Kunal to our show. Welcome, sir, to our show.
Thank you, Gaurav, for having me. It's indeed an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. So tell us, sir, about your childhood and about the hobbies which you enjoyed as a child.
I was born and I grew up in Varanasi. I was born on the university campus. My father was a professor of psychology. He founded the psychology department in 1962. I did my bachelor's degree. I did my BSc honors in physics from BHU itself. And I went to St. John's School, which was in the DLW campus. There's a spirituality about Varanasi, which completely envelops anyone who's growing up and living there.
So what all hobbies you enjoyed as a child, sir?
So I always was inclined towards the arts. And as a very small child, we lived in the university campus in a large bungalow. There was a very large veranda, which was literally like my playground. My parents would give me old newspapers, and then they would give me sort of datun kind of things which were plucked from the tree, which served as my brushes. And then we would dissolve Neel for blue color and Alta, for the red color, and Haldi for the yellow color. And I was paint on, newspapers and using whatever one had. One of my father's friends gifted a Lego set, and I completely fell in love with that because I would build things and take them apart. And so those are the kind of things that I really enjoyed doing as a child.
So as a child, were you an introvert or extrovert child?
I think as a child, I was quite extroverted. I think one of the most sort of memorable things of my childhood, I have a very faint recollection of that. I was about, 3.5 years old. And I went to the airport to see of my father, who was going to the US on a Fulbright fellowship. In those days, there were hardly any barriers. You could just come onto the tarmac and see people off. So there I was with my family and a few of my father's students. We were waiting to see him off. And the aircraft came in from Delhi, and out from the aircraft stepped Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And there were a group of people who had come to receive her. So they gave her flowers and they gave her garlands. And after she, was walking, she spotted me. And then she took one of the garlands and put it around my neck.
That was great experience, sir. So as a child, what was your dream? What would you like to be when you grow up?
I grew up in an environment of academia and the arts. So I really thought at some time I would be a writer. Of course, within the family and everywhere around, people expected, that I would either go into the sciences, and which is why I did my bachelor's degree in physics. And then my life, took a very different turn after that. But I really wanted to write, which fortunately I've been able to do, through my career, and, I continue to do even today.
So as a child memory, जब इंदिरा गांधी ने आपको फ्लावर या माला पहनाई, तो कभी आपके दिमाग में ये नहीं आया कि अच्छा ऐसा हो रहा होता है तो मेरे को भी कभी politician या politics join करनी चाहिए?
No, not really. I never thought about that. No.
Career की journey कहाँ से चालू हुई सर आपकी?
One of my classmates just said, as it is in the college, you said, शाम को क्या कर रहे हो? So he said, I am going to meet someone, and जिसका नाम उसने लिया, he was a senior in school. So I asked him, what is he doing? And he said, वो शायद JNU में journalism पढ़ रहा है. something clicked in my mind. I said, why don't you find out a little? And he came back the next day and he said, well, actually, he's studying at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, which is on the JNU campus, and he's studying advertising. So I decided that, I took the entrance test. I took my MBA entrance test also and got through, and, I did very well in my BSc honors, quantum mechanics, mein record marks bhi mil gaye. And my professors were very disappointed ki out of all those, I decided that I would go and study advertising in the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. And there I did again well, and I did my internship in HTA, Hindustan Thompson Associates. So that was the most respected, largest advertising agency. I did my internship, and then when I finished, I got an offer there in the Kolkata office, and I took it up as a media planner. That's where my career journey started, because for the next many years, as you just said in the introduction, I worked in advertising.
So how difficult was it to convince your parents, okay, I need to go into advertising line now?
So my father was not convinced at all. And in those days, hardly anyone had heard about advertising as a career option and also an option to study. So just to be sure, he went and met a professor of journalism, and he came back, and I heard, some talk between him and his mother saying that ye ladka to bilkul bigad gaya hai. But anyway, my mother said that, let him go. If it doesn't work out for him, he can always, come back and do a master's, MSc kar lega, and he can do. So very reluctantly, my father kind of said, okay, go ahead and study whatever you want to.
So what all challenges did you face in the starting phase of your career?
There's a bit of sad history to that, because by the time I finished my advertising course, my father had started to lose his memory and he was quite seriously ill. And within 4 months of my starting to work, he passed away. So he could never see what I made of my career. And that was a bit of a shock for me. And it was the first challenge that I encountered as a young person who's just starting out. But I was very fortunate in the sense that, for the first many years of my working career, there were very few challenges.
So what was the first project which you worked on while starting your career?
I don't remember exactly which was the very, very first assignment, but within the first few months, I remember, something which was quite sort of significant as an exercise. And this was Jamshedji Tata's 150th birth anniversary. But on the 3rd of March, 1989 was his 150th birth anniversary. So we released a campaign, of course, and because everything was very much the last moment, or 2 or 3 people had to literally go around the country and deliver the material to the newspapers, right, just before it would be printed. And it was a lovely campaign. The next day in the morning, when you see that ad, which you had contributed in some way on the front page of so many newspapers, it really gives you such a proud feeling that you've made it happen.
So how was the feeling when you saw your ad in the newspaper or digital media? And whom all did you call? Okay, mera aaj ad jo hai paper mein aaya, paper mein aaya.
When that paper came the next day at home and my mother was there, she felt very proud that to see some work that I had done, on the front page of a newspaper. Uske pehle to still she had, ki ladka kya karta hai advertising mein, he works late nights. What comes out of it? I mean, us samay to digital media ka kuch tha hi nahi. But when I had gone to Delhi and also Mumbai which was on the same day itself. So I told I had spoken to a few of my friends and who were also, starting out in advertising at that point in time. So they work for other agencies. So to be able to tell them that Mera campaign front page newspaper mein nikla, it was a good feeling. Yeah.
So any craziest idea which you have worked on and which was very difficult to convince the client?
Yeah. I mean, there are quite a few of those. But on one particular occasion, we were working on a campaign on child survival and safe motherhood for the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and UNICEF. And there was I think she was a joint secretary in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare who would approve everything. And we had come up with the equivalent of a mother and child care book, but it was very visual. And a lot of research had gone into making sure that even illiterate audiences could, understand what the messages were. Like 10 minutes into the presentation, she threw us out of the meeting room. said, this is all nonsense. I don't think we can work with you. And we were given the marching orders. The program managers from UNICEF had seen the work and they had supported us. They had helped in developing the work. So it was like come back and regroup and rethink. And then we went back after about a month because we had to give it a bit of a cooling off period. But when we came back, we had come up with this idea which we call parallel press, which you see a lot today. The front page of the newspaper looks like a front page, but it has actually been taken over by some brand and there are brand stories, but it hadn't been thought of before. So we printed about 6 copies with the campaign, and the whole thing, the idea really was that every day thousands of children are dying because of preventable causes. It never makes the headlines, but a plane crashes and 200 people die, a train crashes and 60 people die, it's all in the news, and we wanted to highlight that. So हमने क्या किया, हम लोग ने we printed those 6 copies, and the most important people in the ministry and the UNICEF chief representative who hadn't gone for the first meeting, but then because things had to be salvaged was going to come for this meeting, उनके घर जाके सुबह हम लोगों ने वो newspaper डाल दिया. When we went for the presentation, everyone that we had delivered this to was carrying the newspaper in their hands. These are stories that really have an idea that is new, but it comes out of some experience. And, I think corporate life and advertising and everything is full of such stories.
When did you decide to be a self-employed?
Well, it was actually quite late in my career, and it was not a decision which I made. Yeah, I was forced into that because there was a new role that I had taken on. But 4.5 months into the job, my boss, who was the global CEO, he called me and he said, things are not working out and I'm not going to even entertain a discussion. So after that, I tried looking for opportunities and I didn't find anything. And that's when I decided, I have a lot of experience behind me. Let me start working independently. And I started approaching different companies, different agencies, and that's how the journey began.
So how was the feeling when you received your first award?
It actually came out of the blue. WPP had this annual awards where they recognized their employees had published something, given a speech. It was not for work that you would do on any client. So one evening, one of my colleagues came to see me and there's this envelope, it's a courier which has come for you. And I opened it and I saw that I had won the Grand Prix. It was like suddenly the world had changed.
So how did you came to know that you have been listed in Millennium Edition for Who is Who in the World?
That happened soon after, because I think what happens is that the Who's Who, they invite people who've already been listed in Who's Who to nominate people. I suddenly found out that, soon after I won this award, I was going to be listed in the Who's Who. Again, an honor.
So you talked about your mentor. Can you elaborate about your mentor and how and what all things he helped you in?
He was a gentleman called D.K. Bose. I met him when he came to teach media planning at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. At all the different stages in my, especially in the first 10 years of my career, he helped me, he helped me sort of develop the kind of both the skills as well as the mindset to really do well in profession.
So in your 30 plus year of experience, what all learning would you like to share with the students?
There are obviously a lot of learnings and lessons, if I may call them. I think one very important skill that I have learned is what I call listen to learn and learn to listen. It's very, very important to, hear everyone around you, take their opinions. It doesn't happen very naturally to us, right? Because there's just from people's life experiences and what they have done, there is so much value to be gained out of that. So that is certainly one. I think also it's very important never to burn your bridges, right? No matter what kind of experience you might have had with a person or with an organization. The third thing I think which is absolutely key in today's world is try and develop another skill. Just by focusing on one skill set or, being good at one thing is not going to serve you well at all. Yeah. Because you have to look at, what is now called a side gig. Now that may not pay you immediately or that may not, it it does two things. One is it kind of future proof. So in case your industry or the work that you're doing loses its value at a point in time, then you have something else to fall back on. But the other is that it sometimes takes your mind off the stresses that you experience in your existing sphere, and everyone does that. Whether you're an academic, whether you're a filmmaker, whether you're a journalist, I mean, everyone faces stresses. But you do something else, whether it's baking or photography or gardening or teaching or anything else. As long as you have a side sort of, you nurture that skill, you start enjoying it. That definitely helps you sort of cope with the kind of changes that we experience and are only going to experience even more in the future.
So what advice would you like to give to people who are just planning to join advertising?
Curiosity is something that you have to have at every time. You have to find out, what makes people tick. What are the new things that are happening, in popular culture? What are the new things that are happening, geographically? But if you're curious, then, you'll find out more. You'll try to understand why something is happening. The other, I think, which is kind of a correlation of what I just said, is that, balance both logic and intuition. Ultimately, advertising, or communication, digital media, you're trying to influence people's behavior. Yeah, you can do it by giving them the facts. You can also do it by appealing to their sense of emotion, right? But how do you achieve that right balance? If as an advertising professional, you understand that, then you will be much more successful as a professional.
So now we will start with the rapid round. Favorite campaign?
इस बात भी हम बनाते हैं for Tata Steel.
Favorite actor and actress?
As a child, I always really liked Clint Eastwood. Actress, I think Meryl Streep for her very strong roles.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite destination?
I mean, there are lots of places that I've been to, but Cappadocia in Turkey is absolutely remarkable.
Favorite car?
I would say, my dream car would be a Land Rover.
Things which are in your wish list?
I mean, right now it's that my children do well. My wife and I are able to support them in achieving their dreams and then become free to explore the world.
One thing that you would like to change if you are given superpower?
Make Mumbai more livable.
Second choice of career?
Photographer.
Dream house?
Again, somewhere in the mountains, somewhere in Kumaon or Himachal.
At last, one line that defines you.
Never give up on your dreams.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, sir. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much, Gaurav.